And let me tell you something. A very dear and good friend of mine disagrees with me bitterly. Well, I won't say bitterly, just aggressively and vigorously.
Bitterly.
His name is Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z. Now, I don't usually talk about the conversations that Jay-Z and I have because that's between us. That's why we remain friends, because I ain't out here blabbing about what we talk about. But he hit me up and he vigorously disagreed with my particular position.
Okay, so here's a name we haven't heard in a while. Michael Eric Dyson has stepped out there and put his 2 cents into the Kendrick and Drake debate. He feels like Drake was done wrong by what happened in the battle that's long been adjudicated after we've already kind of decided the winner and everything about it. Now he wants to step out here and talk about his displeasure with Kendrick and how he handled Drake. But I'm here to tell you, Dr. Eric Dyson, this is competition. You don't get to relitigate it after the fact and talk about how unfair it was that this one guy said this about this. I don't need to reprimand Dr. Eric Dyson anymore. It sounds like he got an earful from somebody in particular. Jay-Z. Jay-Z actually reached out, and I heard he does this from time to time for certain people. He'll reach out and actually have a conversation and tell you why he disagrees with you. Dyson got a call from Jay-Z. It's funny, but he was on Jay Moore's podcast, the comedian Jay Moore from SNL, and he had this to say about the Kendrick versus Drake battle and somehow how Kendrick insulted Drake's blackness.
I remember I worked at Fox Sports and there was a big argument between DeMarco Farr. You remember Brian Cox? Yeah, as DeMarco Farr walked away, we're like, "Are you cool?" And he said to us, "Man, fuck him, he's half." And I was like, "That exists?" Like there was a whole
internal. Oh yeah, Kendrick, Lamar, and Drake. Most people would acknowledge Kendrick as genius, but not Drake, right? Drake is commercially viable. He's a monster. He sells records. But is he as deep?
Well, there's a genius to that, though.
Oh, come on, bro. You understand that. Drake is being indicted by Kendrick Lamar, implicitly and explicitly, not like us. The song is the song, whatever you think about it. But the notion itself, big distinction, us versus them. And they're trying to de-black Drake. Right? Oh, really? He's not really black because he grew up in Canada. I grew up in Compton. Bro, you're reducing blackness to Compton? Did you not know that black people fled America going to Canada to escape the iron tyranny?
So he's being a little disingenuous here, right? When did Kendrick literally, and this is what I'm saying, he's going to take his hip hop very literally. And if there's an implication of something, he wants to make it an absolute. Kendrick never said Drake wasn't black, right? He did say he felt like he shouldn't use the N-word because of how he was raised, potentially. He thought maybe that might be part of the disconnect. See, Dr. Eric Dyson is taking a step away. He's taking a leap in logic to absolve Drake of all the faults that he's had in this business. You know, like, and I think there was a clear examination, and probably the first time anybody had called him out on the fact that he was doing some colonizing behavior, right? Jumping on people's record. I can think of 3 or 4 people in particular that he did that to and kind of stopped their momentum. You know, luckily the Weeknd was strong enough to kind of jump out of that, but Drake would sign people and they would write his records. That's the whole Party Next Door problem. You know, that's, you know, all these people, you know, I Love McConan, all these people, who else? Just name anybody that was signed to Drake's OVO label and you'll start to see how he's poaching from the culture. But Michael Eric Dyson doesn't see that. Dr. Dyson doesn't see that. Okay, he's gonna play dumb on this.
Bro, you're reducing blackness to Compton? Did you not know that black people fled America going to Canada to escape the iron tyranny of enslavement? And he ain't black. His daddy is black. He went.
And so you bring that up and you're bringing up that black people fled to Canada, which is true. But did Drake's family flee to Canada? No, they didn't. Right? Okay.
To Memphis every summer. The Memphis Horns fill his music, the first albums Drake made. His grandmama babysat Aretha Franklin.
All right, so we know Dr. Eric Dyson loves celebrities. So now he's going to run down his love for Drake's family and their relationship to celebrities. in the 70s and 60s.
Really?
And his uncle is Larry Graham
Oh,
from Sly and the Family Stone.
he is.
How much? What black card he got to show? And on his album, Damn.
Hold up. You don't have to show a black card because your uncle is Larry Graham. All right. I mean, I like Larry Graham too, but really? All right. This is the guy who doesn't sit down with any black press, by the way, and instead goes and does podcasts with Bobby Althoff. Bobby Althoff? And does podcasts with Bobby Althoff. Like real kind of tongue-in-cheek podcasts and live streams with other white streamers. This is what we're talking about. This is what was problematic in the whole beef when they were talking about some of the choices that he makes. Has no respect for black media, which I would think Dr. Michael Eric Dyson does believe in, even though he's on Jay Moore's podcast saying this, right? Talking about family business at Jay Moore's podcast.
The show. And on his album, Damn, that won the Pulitzer Prize, I like to remind the acolytes of Mr. Lamar that he says, I ain't black, don't call me black no more, because he was in the Black Hebrew stuff. And and Drake said, light skin, but still a dark N-word. So I'm saying, that's your God?
Really? So using the N-word now gives Drake some type of license to be more black. Anyway, I'm going to let him finish.
So to me, yeah, that still exists. You're not as black as me. You're not as righteous as me. What did he say? You're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. What other figure in black music has ever been called a colonizer? Because he experiments widely with music. Kendrick, who put you on tour first? Oh, it was a guy named Drake.
Oh, okay.
So this
All right.
inability to not only have gratitude for where you came from, but to understand blackness.
But that goes back to my point about him poaching from the up-and-coming talent, the people that will be his competition at some point. He attaches himself to them. That is a predatory behavior, whether you want to admit it or not. That is him trying to soak up the essence of people who are rising the ranks. They got the people behind them. So him putting Kendrick on tour doesn't necessarily, it isn't supposed to be all pat on the back that, oh man, this guy's helping you. He's digging this guy out of the trenches. No, it's to make him look more relevant in a lot of ways. Because if Kendrick didn't have a buzz already, I'm guaranteeing you Drake wouldn't have had him on tour.
Is far deeper and more exhaustive than any one nationality or race or people can make it.
Okay, so if that wasn't enough, Jay-Z actually heard this statement, and Jay-Z made it a point to confront and call and talk to Dr. Michael Eric Dyson as an elder statesman in hip-hop, as he should as an elder statesman in hip-hop, you know? Now, we know our brother, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, can be a little long-winded, so I'm going to play what he says in its entirety, but I'm going to play it in 2x speed so we can get through it.
Hey, y'all, Michael Eric Dyson here. Just want to give a few brief words of explanation and clarification about my views on the Kendrick versus Drake beef. First of all, I think Kendrick Lamar is a genius. I also think that Drake is a genius. Their geniuses diverge in very instructive and compelling fashions. If we were to think about it in terms of preaching, since I'm a preacher, Kendrick Lamar would be Martin Luther King Jr., and Drake would be maybe T.D. Jakes.
What? Hold up now. How about we take this out of the realm of preaching? I don't know. That doesn't seem like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a fair comparison. Drake is T.D. Jakes. Have you ever been swallowed?
I mean that literally in terms of the themes with which they are associated. I'm talking about in terms of the stylistic approach, the methodological means by which they achieve their particular craft or art form. Number two, when I made the comparison between Kendrick and Donald Trump, I wasn't suggesting that Kendrick Lamar is in any way associated with Donald Trump. The comparison I am trying to make is that the notion of not like us, the song apart, whenever you think about the song, however you come to understand what its place is in the discography of, contemporary hip hop and rap beef, what I was suggesting, the notion that they are not like us, you are not like us, is something that is deeply entrenched in the culture. It predates what Kendrick said about Drake in his song. I was talking about a Manichaean distinction between us and them that underwrites forms of bigotry, forms of hatred, forms of dismissal. We see this now when we see the president of the United States of America dismissing entire populations of peoples, groups of immigrants, because they are not like us. They are not American. They are not speaking English the way we do. They do not adhere to the principles, ideals, visions, and virtues to which we subscribe. I was suggesting that in that notion, there was a resonance throughout the globe, certainly throughout America, where different populations may have been attracted to this notion beyond its artistic expression, beyond its rap pedigree. My argument is saying somebody ain't like you is the very basis of the hate, the bigotry, and the resistance to a common solidarity among various ethnicities, races, groups of people, all right? So I am not in any way suggesting that Kendrick Lamar is down with Donald Trump. What I am saying is that idea that underwrites not like us is an idea that is resonant in the culture that has purchased precisely because it offers a political stigma, a cultural demonization of the other, what we say in jargonistic terms, the otherization of communities and the like. So that's what I'm.
And I think you're putting too many extras on it. The fact that Kendrick made the song Not Like Us, he was talking about the fact that Drake is and has admittedly been a pop star. He's probably one of the first rap pop stars. He does almost as much singing as he does rapping. He does a lot of different genres, world music, different, so the fact that he says that Not Like Us, he's talking about the fact that Drake doesn't have cultural sensitivity. Drake's cultural sensitivity stopped when he kept saying,
always rapping like you about to get the slaves free. Whipped and changed you like American slaves.
Now we're talking about a specific people, a specific black people, a specific foundational black population of America, right? Kendrick calls him out for that very fact, but Michael Eric Dyson seems to skip over that. So for convenience or political expediency, as he would say, he likes to use those buzzwords and everything. He would like to circumnavigate the fact that Drake has done things that particularly are not beneficial to the culture that he claims to represent. So yes, you are being disingenuous and deserve to be called out for it.
Aiming at. And it got nothing to do with Kendrick liking of that person because he has explicitly articulated ideas that resisted. But part of my argument was that if we appeal to somebody like, say, Antonio Gramsci, what talks about hegemony, not only do you express a form of dominance, but you create a form and a forum that allows the seductive complicity of the very people who are trying to resist an idea to participate in it. Number 3, I am old enough to have fought battles on the front line of hip hop, testifying several times before Congress, both the United States Senate and the House of Representatives, where I was a singular, perhaps some would argue stirring, but certainly solid voice in defense of hip-hop. Because guess what? The entirety of hip-hop was being dismissed as not like us. When I was debating the late, great Stanley Crouch, who said that hip-hop is like Birth of a Nation with a backbeat. 1915 Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation that historically situated cinematically the notion that black people were the other, that they are essentially not like us. I was fighting an entire population of people who felt that hip-hop as a genre was not like us. Black people who suggested that hip-hop is the pathological and nihilistic expression of deadening and deformed and dehumanizing expressions of blackness. Further,
and that is a particular criticism that hip-hop has had for quite a while, because there has been control of hip-hop outside of black hands. A lot of the winners and losers that are being picked in hip-hop do not belong to the community that we're talking about here. So he's trying to set up his bona fides as a defender of hip-hop and why you should believe him on this. And that's fine. You definitely can have respect for that. I have respect for that. But in this same conversation here, now it seems like whether you have a personal relationship with Drake or not, your judgment is being clouded by maybe his popularity. And rightfully so, we're going to get to it. Jay-Z calls him out on that. He probably called him specifically for that reason. I know all the Drake stans are going to be upset about it. Oh, Jay-Z needs to stay out of it. Why has he always got it out for Drake? No. Michael Eric Dyson needed to be called out, and there wasn't a better person to do it than Jay-Z.
They argued that if you want to talk about colonizing an idea or an identity, you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. I fought people who said that young black people had been colonized by white supremacist ideology and stereotypical expressions where they believed that black people had internalized all the stereotypes, the bad nigga,
and he's being so literal. You're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. So that means especially you don't listen to the poetic expression of hip hop where you can say something and it actually means something else. Did you ever think of that? Did you ever think that it might not just be literal? You're not a colleague, you're an effing colonizer. He's talking about the actions that Drake has taken. And I don't see why. Maybe this is a generational thing, but I don't see why Dr. Dyson can't figure that out.
Pimp, the hoe, the skeezer, the slut, demonizing black women. I was on the other side of the table when C. Dolores Tucker and the great Dionne Warwick said that we did not fight for all that we fought for in the civil rights movement and the black freedom struggle. For the first thing to come out of our kids' mouths is bitch, hoe, skeezer, and slut. I couldn't disagree with that. But I fought for their right, their ability, their freedom of expression. And I tried to suggest that they were not merely pathological nihilists, that they were not merely stereotypical representations, that they were not really colonized expressions of consciousness that had been divorced from a more healthy expression of blackness in America. Next point. A lot of people on this internet telling me about, no, you got it mixed up. It's about race, and it's not about race. You make it about race. It's about culture. And you know what amazes me is that, did they give me any credit for having written 27 books? I got a PhD in, religion, ethics, and politics, studying culture.
And you can still be wrong. Let's be clear. You can still be wrong, even with that.
Knowing the difference between race and culture, they don't even make the distinction in ethnicity, right? We know that race is a socially constructed category that gains power and efficacy because it is given meaning in a culture that assigns worth or value to some. We know culture is a set of shared beliefs that people experience and express, symbols, practices, and the like, and the ways in which those symbols and practices are articulated. So culture certainly is not identical with race, even though they have things in common. Race really structures access to certain cultural meanings as well, right? And so when we talk about power and exclusion and violence, when we talk about cultural traits that prevail, we can't extricate them completely from conceptions of race. I know the difference between saying Drake is a colonizer and he's not cool because he's part of a culture that is complicit in the erosion of the identity of blackness, or a cultural form called hip hop that derives from blackness. But you can't divide the two, can you? Because in the sense they're distinct, but you can't separate race and culture when it comes to hip hop, because part of the argument about hip hop culture has been premised upon the belief that this is an expression, an ideal expression of a racialized conception of cultural norms, beliefs, behaviors, that it is a beautiful, authentic expression of blackness, and that the culture that surrounds this particular ideal of blackness is itself the conveyor and the instrument for so many powerful meanings. So
at its best, man. This is what I'm saying. Like, not all hip hop represents exactly that. Not all rap represents all of that. You understand what I'm saying? We, in the past few years, we've definitely experienced a lesser form of hip hop. This is not Public Enemy's era right now. And Drake has been the shepherd of that era. This kind of superficial rap. We went through a meaningless rap phase, a mumble rap phase that led into kind of nothingness. And this is what you're defending. So understand, everybody has their right to expression. Everybody has their right to have their understanding of the culture. And you are entitled to yours as well, sir. But what you can't do is then conveniently add blackness into the equation when you want to. You know what I'm saying? When it helps protect your guy, you know? And I have noticed the people that really are adamant about defending Drake. It's a lot of specific groups. It's a lot of people that were born maybe first generation from another country. A lot of people that are defending maybe being biracial, or there are a lot of people that might actually have a colorist angle to this. And as we know, our brother, Michael Eric Dyson, is on the lighter side of the game. Does he feel like he has to defend the light-skinnedness of Drake? Drake has been dominant for 15 years, more or less.
Get the difference between race and culture, it still doesn't absolve people of making the arguments about Drake related to his othering and his otherization. It's a simple difference of categorical imperative, so to speak, to invoke a old philosopher named Immanuel Kant. Or we sometimes make what philosophers call a category mistake. We ain't putting one thing in the bin that it deserves to be. And I understand people trying to question me about that, but it's the nastiness and the viciousness and really the condescension. You really think you want to go up against me about issues like that? You don't think I could be as nasty as you are? Some of you who said horrible things and got personal because you disagree with me? Disagree with me. Just because I had a PhD and wrote 27 books don't mean I can't be argued with. I can't be wrong, because if that were the case, all scholars would agree with all scholars, and we don't. There are vigorous disagreements. There are particularly poignant interactions between scholars who disagree, or thinkers who disagree, or intellectuals who disagree, right? And we know beef is not endemic to hip hop, or at least let me say this, it's not contained or controlled there, because we know that James Baldwin was beefing with Richard Wright, beefing with, Ralph Ellison. We know Du Bois versus Booker T. Washington. So we know there's a rich tradition of disagreement in black culture. But what I am saying is that given all this, race and culture, and let's throw in ethnicity, the shared beliefs and languages that are generated out of a particular cultural formation that solidifies groups. Y'all don't even mention that, but that's part of it too. I'm still saying at the end of the day, to demonize and stigmatize Drake as another, you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer, is the reproduction of the pathology of white supremacist differences between and among us. Now, I know some people think, well, it ain't that serious, and that's not what's going on. My job as a scholar is to show you that stuff you didn't think was that serious might be a bit more serious than you think. I could be wrong, to be sure. So I don't say it with the...
So Kendrick is the reason. Kendrick is bringing in othering that also allows white supremacy to exist. Really? Really? Kendrick saying that line and othering Drake in a rap battle is bringing in white supremacy. That's a stretch. And I hope you didn't hurt yourself stretching there. I'm not going to say that's the first time you've done that, but you see what I'm saying here? Like this is dishonesty. And that's the problem here.
Of arrogance that some of my interlocutors on the
Just because he speaks eloquently and fast, because I have him on 2x speed, just because he speaks eloquently, somehow he's allowed to get away with this. He's going to try to get away with this. Nah, not on my watch.
internet on the internet have suggested. And let me tell you something. A very dear and good friend of mine disagrees with me bitterly. Well, I won't say bitterly, just aggressively and vigorously.
Bitterly.
His name is Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z. Now, I don't usually talk about the conversations that Jay-Z and I have because that's between us. That's why we remain friends, because I ain't out here blabbing about what we talk about. But he hit me up and he vigorously disagreed with my particular position. He said it with dignity. He said it with respect. He articulated his ideal intelligently. I responded to him. We went back and forth for a minute, and I shared with him my essay, the 3,000 some word essay I wrote in the Philadelphia paper, where I break down what's going on between Kendrick and Drake.
And this is why you're doing this apology, because Jay-Z called you to the carpet. He called you out about this. We don't get this apology any other way, because you see what he did with other commenters that have been critical of what he said. He reduced them. But when Jay-Z calls, or when Larry Graham is your uncle, you got a problem here. You got a problem here because you can't see how biased you're being and how celebrity focused you are. We got a name for that in Hollywood. It's not for public consumption, but I'm gonna remain respectful.
And he was respectful. What I love about Jay is that he's not arrogant, and he's got more reason to be arrogant than anybody we talking to, including myself, on this darn internet.
Oh, he the only one?
And yet, in social media. And yet he chose to be gracious, vigorous, clear, transparent about his disagreements, but he did not get nasty and vicious with me. So the point is that I'm saying we can disagree with each other and not be nasty. I understand a rap battle is a rap battle and you trying to exploit your opponent's, if it will, vulnerabilities. But in an age of social media, it hits different when you call somebody a or when you make arguments about domestic violence. I understand that.
Oh, so that's another thing he's mad about. Okay, so it ain't about blackness. It's about the PDF file part of this. Got it.
It hits different when it resonates in
And people don't care when other people get called PDF files, but somehow when Drake got called a PDF file, it's supposed to be the most unhip-hop thing done in America, which is I need to sue because of this, which is another move that proved that Kendrick's statement was right. What other rapper do you know out there that is suing people, that are suing companies that represent both of them and the party against you that beat you in a rap battle? Let's just be honest. Just beat the hell out you. Belt to ass. I mean, like, that's one thing Dr. Michael Eric Dyson isn't saying. Was it a complete KO? I'm gonna have to read 3,000 pages of your article, I guess, in Philadelphia Inquirer or wherever it was.
age of social media, it hits different when you call somebody a or when you make arguments about domestic violence. I understand that. It hits different when it resonates in a cultural vacuum or in a cultural arena where the Me Too movement, the progressive ideas of misogyny and sexism and patriarchy have prevailed, where we are far more sensitive and culturally appropriately so, aware of the various forms of hurt and pain that women have to endure, and that gender plays a role that we have historically ignored. All that is true, but you ain't got to be nasty, right? And so when you make those kind of arguments, they hit different now than they did 15 years ago when we didn't have the prominence. And
he says you ain't got to be nasty, but when have we ever been able to call the engagements of war in hip hop? This is the thing. This is the dishonesty. There are far more destructive or quote unquote nasty things that have been said in a hip hop battle. But for some reason, this one This one hits different. We're supposed to treat Drake differently. Like, this is what I'm saying. There is an othering, and the othering is actually coming from Drake. And you're supposed to treat him with kid gloves. Why? You decided to jump in the ring with Kendrick Lamar. You thought you was Billy Badass and got your ass whooped. That ain't got nothing to do with how he handled the battle. This is what I'm saying. People are Monday morning quarterbacking this situation. It was a flawless victory.
In prominence of social media. So all I'm trying to do is clarify my beliefs. I think Kendrick's a genius. I think Drake's a genius. I think the dehumanizing impulse of othering other people is traced beneath the argument about not like us. And when you talk about colonizer and colleague, the entire genre of hip hop was seen as alien to the fundamental expressions of black culture by an earlier generation that felt that hip hop was deeply and profoundly problematic and should be eviscerated, erased, gotten rid of, post haste, immediately. And so I just wanted to clarify that. As for my paraphrase of Kendrick Lamar saying I'm not black, and I know it's about, again, black Hebrew Israelite identity. Again, my PhD is in religion from Princeton. I get that. I've studied that.
But you were very dismissive of that fact when you brought it up as a counter to the fact that he said Drake is not like us. If you want to be technical about it, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, he said they not like us. He was talking about more than just Drake in that situation. He was in a battle with Drake, but they not like us.
Read John Jackson's wonderful book, read other books about black Hebrew Israelites, but you do realize that in a black Hebrew Israelite universe, cosmos, the notion of theodicy, Theodicy, that is trying to explain how a good God can assign hurt and pain to human beings that allow evil to progress or persist, is at the heart of some of the black Hebrew Israelite beliefs. And some people on the surface might think that there's a blaming of black people themselves for the plight and predicament and the condition that they endure because they have been disobedient to God and refuse to bow down and subordinate themselves to the spiritual practices and religious identities that are generated in that religion. Legare, religio, that's the root word of religion, to bind together. So I know that. And I'm still saying that in that context, when Drake says, right, light skin, still a dark N-word.
He keeps bringing up that line. That doesn't have anything to do with that battle in particular. He's purposely leaving out what Drake actually said in that battle. How deeply anti-black he was in some of the things that he said. And this is the criticism you're getting, Dr. Dyson. So you're just going to have to understand that criticism that's coming back at you is actually warranted. And it's not people being haters. It's people that are seeing this situation fully, not from a defensive position. Because, I mean, if I have to judge your overall tone in both of these clips, it seems a little revisionist. And it does seem a little defensive.
And Drake and Kendrick is saying, I'm not black, don't call. As a color, I understand the philosophical argument. I understand the pedigree of his distinction that rests upon these internal dimensions of black Hebrew Israelite. But I'm saying, having said all that, let's at least account for a rigorous examination of each case of identity put forth by these two titans of hip hop. I'm a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar. I am a huge fan of Drake.
All right, clean
and
it
so
up.
when I defended him against these, to me, problematic assertions, it was not because I don't recognize the genius of Kendrick Lamar. I just think that the genius of Drake is being dismissed, marginalized, his humanity. Look at the variety of forms of music that he has engaged. So this is not colonizing. This is experimentation with the black diaspora, the diaspora, which is bigger than Compton, right? There are black people in Canada doing amazing and phenomenal things.
You think Kendrick isn't doing the exact same thing? I mean, I distinctly remember one of my favorite Kendrick albums is literally jazz-inspired, funk-inspired. So what are you talking about? Are you just saying that because Drake has sampled from different cultures, has gone out and, experimented? I'm not taking away from that. I think that's a great thing. Go ahead, keep doing that, Drake. But don't try to get extra brownie points when somebody calls you out for how you're behaving within the culture. How many artists have issues with Drake for this very reason, that were more than willing to jump in the battle when things went down, right? And Drake, at his own detriment, decided to engage those people instead of dealing with the person that was right in front of him that was the obvious threat. And Kendrick's toured all over the world. Like, you act like he's just touring in Compton and in Los Angeles County. Like, come on now. Worldwide artist, man. Stop being reductive just because your man didn't win.
The culture of hip hop cannot be reduced to the culture of Black America. This is where ethnicity would come in. You talk about race and culture. You didn't mention ethnicity.
Once again, we're going to say this. Hip hop and rap music has its roots in the foundational Black American culture. Let's be very specific about it. Because you have rappers that are happening all through gospel music. You have rappers that are happening all through. You have even breakdancers that are on Thomas Edison's video. Like, come on now. Something that can be interpreted as breakdancing. You have tap dancers that are doing the similar moves. And then you're going to limit the foundation and creation of it and put it outside of that community. That's what I think is going on here. That's the othering that's happening. It's the othering of hip hop that is happening that is disturbing in some cases. And I think you're doing it on purpose so you can, continue on your rhetoric that you've had without having to adjust in any way. That's a shame. Because if you were open to what people are saying and the origins of this music, I don't think it threatens anybody's participation in the art form.
So that you could be a Nigerian, or you could be from the Caribbean. Say you were from Grenada, right? There are many different ethnicities within Blackness. You could be from Santiago de Cuba. You could be from Salvador de Bahia, right? In Brazil and in Cuba, where most Black folk went outside of America. Most Black folk in the diaspora spread through the world because of enslavement, went to Brazil, went to the Caribbean. The fewest came here to America. So let's be a little bit more honest.
So then let's talk about it. Where did all these Black people come from in America? I'm tired of having this argument. It's disingenuous at this point. You're literally putting blinders on when you don't examine how all these Black people got on this soil. It's dishonest at this point.
And conscious of the broad varieties of Blacknesses that prevail. I got a lot more to say when I write the book about it. I just want to get on here and clarify it. Please be kind to each other. Talk to each other with respect, not this nastiness, because you don't think I could pop back at you? Dude, I make my own living with words. I could get at you like that. I choose not to. Let's be loving and affirming of each other. God bless.
I'm going to act like Drake now. Nigga, what? Nigga, what? Who cares? Who cares what you can pop back at? But anyway, I don't know, man. It was a long video. So I'm going to wrap this up. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. Make sure you sign up for the Faucette Media Patreon. The link is in the description. We're going to be having conversations like this all the time because sometimes there's not a place for it on the main channel. So I want to expand myself and have more options, be able to discuss things. There's no hard feelings with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, but sometimes we just got to make things clear, right? Sometimes Jay-Z got to call and pull your coat. You know what I'm saying? Let you know. I think that should have been an indication of what you did and what you didn't do, right? But anyway, this is Faucette Media.